Hello and welcome to Warframe Unabridged. I'm your host Finn, and today we're going to conclude our journey through the power kit of Nezha as we take a look at my favorite and most powerful loadout, the Thermokinetic. But before we begin, I wanted to remind you that this is your last opportunity for a free Nezha, complete with a Circa helmet. See details at the end of the video. So last time on Nezha Unabridged, we discussed scaling and how unimportant it is to the game, and I stand by every word that I slurred in that video. However, I do want to voice a bit of my own cognitive dissonance on the topic. Now, what I said was accurate objective reality, but what about the realm of subjective personal preference? Do we not also play these games for the sake of fun power fantasies? Do we not eagerly desire to destroy world-ending foes with the pull of a trigger? Of course we do. So if it's fun, why am I so down on it? When I hear someone say that a frame sucks, that is an objective statement, but they say it sucks when it only scales through level 50. But for a more clear understanding of what a frame needs to be capable of, let's ask the question, what is this game balanced around? Well, that is and always will be, unless there's some announcement made, the freaking star chart, not Kuva Flood, not raids, not sorties, not Conclave, not fucking Flappy Zephyr, and certainly not endless missions. Also, Wormius is not canon. You can bring that golden calf bullshit and take it somewhere else. Now, with that in the forefront of your brains, ask yourself, what is the highest level enemy that the star chart will produce before extraction is available? In the event that you don't know, you shouldn't find any enemies higher than levels 50 through 60 in the worst of circumstances, unless you are staying beyond the natural end of the mission. So the disparity here is between what is necessary and what we prefer, and both are to an extent valid, but one of those means that a lot of people hold an opinion that it is absolutely objectively wrong in terms of fact. A frame does not become useless because it doesn't scale higher than the content of the game is balanced around. I often repeat the saying, there are no bad frames, only bad players. And you will hear other YouTubers that think otherwise, labeling frames as trash and okay and hot garbage. And I really do see their frustration, but truly it's unfounded, and I'm about to tell you why. If you humor me, I would like to digress into something that is somewhat unrelated to Warframe, to illustrate my point in a more concise manner. The television show Handy Manny. So for those of you who stuck around past that point, no, it's not a joke. You see in every episode of Handy Manny, or at least in every episode that I've ever seen with my siblings, nephew, nieces, and son, that there is a short scene where Pat the Hammer, whatever task it is that they are doing, thinks he can handle it, boasting that he's a hammer and he can do anything, thinking that this one tool can do any job. This portion of the episode is to illustrate to small children who normally get the lesson that one tool is not good for every job, and it displays that adequately in every episode, while still showing that Pat the Hammer does still have specific uses that it was designed for. Moving this back to Warframe, you would think that as adults we would understand by now that no tool can perform well on every task. So when I hear pro noobs saying something along the lines of Nezha being something like a worse rhino, or that a frame like Ember sucks because she only scales to around 50, then I guess I just kind of nod and understand that they're wearing their ignorance on their sleeve. In reality, 50 covers all of the balanced game and content. For the sake of argument, let's see what it is that has everybody saying that Nezha is a worse rhino via comparison. Now, this is based entirely on two common aspects: warding Halo, using the same system as Iron Skin to determine its health. The other is the fact that he has an area of effect crowd control ultimate. Let that sink in. That's all that they have in common. So how about we list all of the distinctions so that people of that flawed, mentally deficient mindset will drop it already. So for your consideration, here is everything that Nezha does that Rhino can't or doesn't. Nezha can cause kills to heal himself and allies. He can force panic proc. He can lay down barrier crowd control wherever he wishes. He is capable of teleportation. He can store an endless battery of damage. He can grant damage barriers to an infinite number of friendly targets. He is capable of generating a fiery area of effect that deals heat damage over time, as well as panic procs. He can emit stagger fields that scale with range. He can deal slash damage to enemies for simply standing near them. Can do an impact damage area of effect. He can make interception towers come out of conflict even while enemies are still occupying them. He can remove status from his allies. He can leave a damaging trail. He can enhance his movement speed, and he has synergy between Halo and Spears in the way that they deal better damage together. But hey, you go ahead and cling to your false equivalency fallacy if you really want to, while everybody that's sane understands that they are more different than they are the same. So where do we go from here? we finally unleashed ourselves from the bounds that presume one frame is just a weaker version of another, when really they're completely different frames that serve very different purposes, even though there's a little tiny bit of overlap. From here, we now build how we want. But that's not to say that we can't build for a little bit of scaling every now and then, you know, for fun or for science. Just don't continue to scale just as a way to overcompensate. And with that in mind, let me propose to you not only my favorite, but my most powerful Nezha loadout to date in our conclusion to Nezha Unabridged. So for this build, we use Rush, Blind Rage, Fleeting Expertise, Prime Flow, Energy Conversion, Pyroclastic Flow, Narrow-Minded, Quick Thinking, Streamlined, and Growing Power. The primary is going to be the Javlock, which is in a good place right now with its diverse 3 fire modes. Secondary is the Sicarus Prime, which is currently in its prime and is one of the greatest sidearms in the game right now. Melee weapon will be none other than the Silva and Aegis Prime. My companion will be Jin, an asset to the loadout's tactics. For our Archwing, we will use the Augmented Itzal. For Arcanes, we use Grace and Energize. And for our Focus School, we will go with Vazarin. The rationale behind this loadout, I wanted a Nezha loadout that could be a sufficient damage dealer in any given mission type. This build is Firewalker centric, with regular use from Halo, minor use from Chakram, and no use from Divine Spears. When I go into a mission with Thermokinetic, I begin casting Firewalker and Halo immediately. No buildup is necessary, although you do have 2 buffs that will be there fairly quick. The aim of this is to make the best use of the Firewalker augment Pyroclastic Flow. For those of you who haven't dabbled, this is a pocket version of main, which is better in some ways, but it is the lesser power. The augment permits that you store damage equal to the damage dealt, and half again, as if it were unmitigated, and that's a big thing. And you can unleash all of that damage in one column of heat. The augment has no upper limits, and it doesn't require that you kill a target to accumulate the damage towards the battery. While it is nowhere near as powerful as a charge float, the Javlock serves very well as an area of effect weapon, dealing splash damage with its standard fire, dealing larger AoEs with the 2 alternate fire modes as well. This weapon serves well in its diversity to hit fast and on the fly, or slow and calculating. Whether it be launching a fiery lance from a skybound archwing or on the ground in a frame, this AoE deals copious damage, and if you abuse the damage buff as well, you're not going to have many enemies stand up to you. The Sicarus is a reliable standard DPS weapon which can shred armor, crit, or anything else you may need to descale an enemy, or outright just shred them while your Javlock is deployed. In terms of defenses, what keeps the Thermokinetic standing are a few things, including his Arcanes and his Operator, with power supplementing obviously. Between the quick revives of Vazarin, passive health regeneration of Arcane Grace, and passive energy restoration from Energize, fueling my quick thinking and my absurd primed flow energy pool, I think I'm well enough covered. But we also stack a strong warding Halo and can supplement our healing with Blazing Chakram if it's necessary. Both Halo and Chakram benefit from both energy conversion as well as growing power, so this loadout has what I like to call compounding, and I'm going to do a video on that at a later point, but it's basically using all of these effects that stack together. It's like min-maxing, only there's not really any drawbacks to it. And this is mostly focused around Nezha's benefit from energy orbs. Now with Arcane Energize granting me 125 energy per orb and energy conversion granting me greater power strength, not only do my powers nearly perpetually remain in a buff state, I will nearly always have the energy to use those buffed abilities. I suppose I could further compound this with a second set of Energize, or with Eruption making a crowd out control effect. With both of these power strength buffs that are seemingly perpetual on account of this loadout, Firewalker then charges that much quicker. But it isn't the only way Pyroclastic Flow is supercharged. Compounding this way permits that the mathematical gains grow at an absurd pace with the flow, but that is only with enemies exposed to my Firewalker trails. So to further add to this are 2 different components, the first being Guardian Derision, but that locks you into melee blocking, which isn't terrible since the Silva and Aegis Prime grants 90% damage mitigation. I will only use this though as a last resort if my Jin is dead or against the infested, because it won't do fuck all to ranged units. A second, and the more preferable option, is Jin's Fatal Attraction, which will draw enemies, including ranged units, making for a supercharged Pyroclastic Flow in a matter of seconds, and assuming someone gets too close, I have Coolant Link to deal with them. In the plains, the loadout loadout finds far less use, no doubt, but adopts a completely different playstyle. I always use my Itzel Archwing, only occasionally landing for the sake of a little bit of run and gun fun. And when I have unlimited power buffing, unlimited energy, the ability to blind freeze, teleport, turn invisible, summon an army of DPS with perfect accuracy, all of this, it really tends to make short work of anything and everything, and simply put, the Thermokinetic rules all that it surveys. But that is all there is to the loadout. Don't forget to comment a fun fact about Nezha and provide your in-game information for a chance to win Nezha, his Circa helmet, or one of his Tenogen skins. But until next time, this is Finn, signing off.